Good evening. I'm calling the representative town meeting to order. It is Wednesday, August 9th at 7 a.m. Madam Clerk, if you'd please call.
No, it's 7 p.m.
It is, what did I say, a.m.?
Yep.
7:02 p.m. Sorry.
Close. Oh,
7:02 p.m.
well, some councils in RTMs meet at 7 a.m., I'm sure, somewhere. Okay, Representative Adams? Here. Amboise? Is he online?
He's online.
Online, I see you. Okay. Bailey?
Here. Here.
Thank you. Burrell?
Here.
Brennan? Bright?
Here.
Casper?
Here.
Surf?
Here.
Chase?
Here.
Crockett Hubbard? Dean Shinbrot? Eben? Oh, Dean Shinbrot's here. Okay. Eben? Nope, not yet. Frickman? Not yet. Fritchie, 10.
Here.
Gardner, no. Gauthier, yes.
Gauthier.
Gibbs?
Here.
Gustafson? Hainline?
Gustafson's online.
Here.
Okay, thank you. Hainline?
Said she wouldn't be here.
Hanscom? I see you.
Here.
Mhm. Ivy? Caden?
Here.
Massett?
Here.
McElreed?
Here.
Merritt?
Here.
Norman?
Here.
Aubry? Perry? She had surgery. K. Powers?
Here.
S. Powers?
Here.
Pacino?
Here.
Scott? I see.
Here.
Mhm. Cimarero?
Here.
Thomas?
Here.
V.C. Williams? Watson?
I'm here.
Weaver? Wells?
Here.
Whitney?
Here.
And Rusk.
Here.
That's 29 at roll call, and if you see anybody come in, let me know.
All right. We will all please rise for a moment of silence and salute to the flag. Representative McElroy, will you please lead us in the salute to the flag? Christy. You pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The first thing on our agenda tonight is approval of the regular meeting minutes from Wednesday, June 14th. Are there any corrections to the minutes? Seeing none, the minutes will stand as they were submitted. Next is public petitions. This is the portion of the RTM agenda where the RTM welcomes comments from the public. Each presentation should be limited to 5 minutes, or as directed, if possible, submit written comments. Presentation should be limited to matters pertinent to the town of Groton. The moderator or members through the moderator shall ask questions only in order to clarify the speaker's presentation. Responses may be given by the moderator and/or the town manager. Individuals should please state their name and address for the record. I have one person who has signed up, Mr. Goodrich. Is that wrong? Okay.
Got Mary Ellen, oh, I don't see him online.
Ms. Furlong?
Maybe he stepped out to the men's room or something, I don't know.
Representative
Upstairs,
Eben
Eben.
is here at 7:06.
Perfect. She's 30.
Good evening, members of the RTM. Thank you very much for your time. I'm here just to make a few.
Can you say your name and address for
Oh,
the record,
sorry,
please?
yes. Mary Ellen Furlong, 57 Fishtown Lane, Noank Mystic Groton. I'm basically here to say that I am extremely unhappy as to what happened with the Property Reuse Commission's proposals for selling off property that the town no longer needs. And I do mean selling. I do not mean giving away for $1. This is what the town seems to be doing, giving away property for $1 that will make them a fair bit of money down the road. We need rules. We desperately need rules. And if we had had rules in place, we wouldn't have had things like the Restler development, which was tremendous oral school, tremendously oversized, something that would have been absolutely poisonous for the town with the amount of traffic and so on. And again, that was partially state-owned land, but the idea of giving it away for $1, this land way up above the Mystic River, that's absurd. And the development would have been absurd. And as usual, we still have had threats from Restler, who may sue us or not. We don't know. It's been a while, but Blue Lotus was involved, other things like that. Then we had the data centers. First, we had this hastily pushed through agreement to host GotSpace, and without really knowing what we were doing. This was shoved through the council in executive session, as usual. They almost signed a second agreement, which was being pushed for a second data center headed by New England Edge. The CEO of New England Edge was formerly the CEO of GotSpace. Now, the current CEO of GotSpace, Fiorello, is threatening big lawsuits. They're ridiculous. I mean, $5 billion or $30 billion, various amounts like that are absurd. But, again, this costs the town money. Legal people have to look at it. This costs the town time. Years go by and nothing gets developed. And we're seeing the consequence of it. Probably your taxes didn't go up the way mine did, because I understand when they revalue houses, they look and see where the legislators are living, so they don't knock them up the way we do. Mine went up $70,000 with absolutely no improvements. We townspeople are being made to pay for these developers. This constant idea of TIFs, the financing coming from the town, is absurd for some of these developments. I really think that we need the really good set of rules that were in place by a commission that spent over a year with experts going over the rules that would protect us, protect the town, and get some decent developments in. If you don't put out the right request for proposal that is correct, you get back wrong things. They are not what you needed. And that's what's been happening to us.
You have 30 seconds left.
I urge you to listen to Mr. Thomas's proposal tonight and really think about the town. Think about doing some good for the town. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Goodrich?
Sorry for being late.
No worries.
So I'm here to talk about the property reuse document.
Name and address first,
Sorry,
please.
John Goodrich, 1315 River Road, Mystic.
Thank you.
Sorry, ran in. Yeah, so I got a document today from our town attorney that was sent. And I think some people are concerned that it's a legal opinion. And I just want to caution members of the RTM that words are important. So Mr. Cody does say he's providing comment. It's comment from somebody that happens to be an attorney. So if we're going to use that, I guess mine is an automotive opinion because I work in automotive. It's not a legal opinion. Legal opinions would cite case law, they would cite code. None of this is in here. So I just want to caution if you wouldn't going through this and what you want to do to give Mr. Cody's comments their due weight, which is pretty light. Again, none of this in here would stand up as a legal opinion. Another thing too, you know, he does make a comment in here that I want to point out. Sorry. He basically says that the document would, you know, hurt development in our town. Well, again, Rich is an attorney. What's his expertise to comment on development? If you guys actually watch video of the property reuse committee, we had Eric Goodman, who's a developer, come in. And as a developer, said this was a document that would help the town. So again, I would rather listen to the developer than an attorney. So yeah, that's basically it. Just, again, please give this the due weight it deserves, which is, in my opinion, nothing, and do what's right for the town. You know, you guys are here as representatives of the town. The town council is here as representatives of the residents of the town. I am sit on the Historic District Commission as a representative of the residents of the town. So do what's right for the residents. Don't do what you think is right for you. Again, and I'm not trying to say I'm the town attorney, you know, we pay the town attorney $300,000 to $400,000 a year in tax money. These are the same attorneys that wrote the development agreement with Mr. Respler. We know what a disaster that is. The same attorneys that wrote our agreement with, who's the people that are suing us for $30 billion right now. So again, keep that in mind when you look at this document. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak?
Good evening. My name is Natalie Billing, 15 Ashby Street, Mystic.
Thank you.
Madam Moderator, members of the RTM. I understand that at the end, later in your meeting, there might be an effort to suspend your rules to add an item to the agenda. I'm here to speak in opposition to that, to ask you to think twice before doing that. And it's really a general policy. If you understand the Freedom of Information Law, the Freedom of Information Law in Connecticut says if you're going to discuss something at a meeting, it needs to be on the agenda. Why? So that the public knows you're going to be talking about it. If you suspend the rules and add this to the agenda tonight, you'd be taking up something that the public at large is not aware that you're going to be talking about. That's very different from what happened at the town council meetings, where this item and items related to property reuse were on the council agenda many times over the last several years. On the agenda, public aware, the public could go and speak. So, in general, I urge you not to suspend the rules to add this. I have other concerns. One of which is, if you do this tonight, please consider the precedent that you're setting. I speak as a former town councilor. I speak as a former member of the RTM and former moderator. You would be setting a precedent. It's never been done before, that an item discussed at the council that doesn't pass at the council, that the people who aren't happy about that then say, oh, let's take it over to the RTM and see what the RTM thinks. That's a precedent and that I have a lot of concern about as to how that would affect the town and the governing of the town. I think it would set a very bad precedent, and I urge you not to do that. Thirdly, as far as the actual item that you would be talking about if you were to do that, I am opposed to that item, and unlike the previous speaker, I happen to think that the town attorney's opinion is something that people ought to pay attention to. I happen to agree with many of his observations about the report, and for that reason, I would not be in favor of it being adopted. So, thank you for your time, and good luck with your decision tonight.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Okay, seeing none, we will move on. Are there any questions of clarification for this? Yes, Representative Gauthier, clarification question?
Yes, clarification question. What is an RTM member's ability to put an item on the agenda if it's asked for by the moderator and then the moderator refuses to put it on the agenda, if not to suspend the rules under other business?
They are welcome to suspend the rules,
So unless you put it on there, that's our only recourse?
unless it's been put on.
Thank
Correct.
you.
Anyone else?
Can I clarify
Yes.
something? Just to clarify, that is considered a legal opinion. The attorney asked how much time and money I wanted him to spend on that when it clearly couldn't pass in its current form. I said, just hit the highlights for now, and if anything further progresses, he facetiously said he could write about 400 pages on this, but.
Representative Thomas had his hand up next.
Thank you. Just a question for the town clerk, actually, because the idea that the RTM cannot act, this is a question of clarification on the RTM's powers to handle something that maybe did not go through the town council.
The question that you are asking actually is a question of clarification from one of the speakers.
Well,
So-
we have a document here that was provided to me by the town clerk, and it is contradictory to what the speaker just said. So,
Meaning which document? Can you clarify which document you're speaking of?
attorney's opinion from 1980 regarding, that was in the original email that got sent out to everybody. And it was also handed out in the packet of materials tonight.
From Attorney McCousher?
Yes.
Okay.
Given the clerk's familiarity with it, I was going to ask her to speak on the issue, maybe to explain it, but essentially this letter does state that it is legitimate for the RTM to take up an item that did not pass in the council.
We all received this. Yep.
Okay, so just want to counterbalance that narrative with an attorney's opinion.
But that's not a, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Just two things. I don't think anybody's arguing that the general idea of it is fine for the RTM to take up. You just can't really pass it in its current form. However, just to mention that opinion's from 1980. It was based on, I think, the 1960 charter was in place at the time, which of course we have newer charters since then. So until you have a new one, I would not count that as valid.
I'm sorry, that section did not change, Mr. Manager? One word, which is, it's not, it doesn't change it.
Okay. Representative
all here.
Cerf, had your hand up. Clarification question only, please.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I would like to ask a question of Natalie Billing. The fact that Manager Byrd managed to consult the town attorney about this means that he knew about it before he prepared the agenda, and he could have put it on the agenda. Therefore, it is not a freedom of information violation. It's a freedom of speech violation, in that our speech is being basically
Madam
curtailed
Moderator,
by the
Yes.
manager.
point of order.
What's your point of
Point
order?
of order,
My-
this is not a clarification question.
Correct. This is not a clarification.
Look, everybody's talking at the same time. Could we have one person at a time, please?
My
So
point,
there was a point of order.
my point of order is maybe this should be taken up in the proper place on our agenda, which is not now.
So these were questions of clarification, so we are going to move on unless there's more Questions of clarification? There are not. So we are moving on to receipt of communications. I will start. I'm sorry, John, did you have something else?
No.
Okay. So the first thing was Sutton Park redevelopment meeting is August 16th at 6 p.m. All are welcome to that. It's at the Town of Groton Community Center at 61 Fort Hill Road, which is the old Fitch Middle School, for those of you who are not familiar with that. We all received an email from Councilor McBride on the Property Reuse Committee. Again, we received a communication from Representative Thomas, and then we received a communication from the attorney. We additionally received some communication from Representative Clerk McCousher, including the 1980 attorney's opinion, which was brought up tonight. I also received communication that Representative Hainline would not be here and Representative Gardner would not be here. Yes.
Thank you. I received an email from Edward Johnson. I will read the email. The title is Support of the PRUC to the District 7 RTM representatives 8/7/23 at 8:50 p.m. Please support the actions of the PRUC as described in the attached letter by Mr. McBride. Thank you for your efforts in helping Groton. Edward R. Johnson, 87 Main Street, Noank.
Thank you. Yes, Representative Dorothy.
Quick clarification beforehand. This is a verbal communication. I was approached by two constituents. Is that all right
That's
to enter?
fine. Yeah.
I was approached by two former or retired Town of Groton police officers. They are concerned, I guess there's been a lawsuit with the town for a few years now, and the town is going on its third appeal to not pay them out their employee retiree health benefits. And they FOI'd the costs for the attorney fees to deny them their retiree health benefits, and they were just seeking some more information on the lawsuit. Why is essentially they asked me, which I don't know the answer to, which is why is taxpayer dollars being used to repeatedly appeal court orders to pay these retirees their health benefits? Why is the town continuing to appeal and deny them that? I guess that was more for the town manager, but that was what was asked of me.
Town manager, can you?
Well, being a ongoing legal issue, there's really not much I could say other than the attorney, one of the attorneys, Christy Kelly, the chief, and Arnisha Green, the HR director, have been working on that, and it has a broader implication. It's not a simple matter.
We also have a referral from the town council accepting nuclear safety emergency program grant that will be referred to the finance committee. Representative Wells.
I received a brief communication from Hassam Abu saying he is closing his midnight hookah lounge and that he lost his lease. And apparently the police department weighed on the landlord to close the place down. Unlike the Spicer Mansion, where the fellow owned the building, it wasn't quite so simple. So they didn't. So it didn't involve him going to. But anyway, that's.
Town manager, you want to?
Yeah, I just wanted to say the police did not lean on the landlord. The police did not contact the landlord. I believe, if anything, it was those 30 bullets shot a couple of months ago, including the neighbors who came to the landlord. It was not the police that weighed on the landlord.
So in other words, you're saying the neighbors closed it down?
Well, it's not the police, it's the landlord, it's their own decision. Do not blame it on the police without knowing all the facts.
Anyone else? Yeah, hold on.
What's that?
Yes, come on up, Councilor Borderline.
I received a communication. I did try to reach out to the town manager. I got it a few hours ago when I was out in the community. Folks around Pleasant Valley were complaining about the deplorable conditions of the landscaping, not being mowed, not being trimmed. So I drove past today, took a few pictures. I did attempt to reach to the town manager, but I did tell them, the few constituents who wanted to remain anonymous, which I think they have a right to, that I would speak about it at my first available meeting, which would be tonight that I was attending. I also have a communication from myself as a concern. I just want to double clarify. Ex officio members can't speak under public comment at the RTM, is that correct?
That is
So
correct.
nobody, okay, so I am going to be sending a referral to have the attorney's opinion look into that, because as an elected official and a resident, if I want to speak to something that's not on your agenda that night, and I only can speak as an ex officio member when that agenda item comes up, how can I then speak about an issue I'd like to bring up to my constituents of the RTM publicly? So I feel it could be a concern legal. I can agree, yes, under public comment, maybe I'll save it for when the agenda item comes up, but I should be, as a taxpayer first, before an elected official, be able to come to the mic and say my concerns district-wide to my constituents who represent me. So I will be sending that referral, because I did have someone look at that, and it definitely is a large gray area that needs to be looked at, allowing and muting people's right as taxpayers. Thank you. So I will send it to which committee?
You could send it to me and to the town clerk. And we'll
Perfect.
get it to
Thank
the
you.
committee. Anyone else? It will actually go to the Rules Committee, because that's who forwarded it in the first place. Seeing none other, report from the town manager.
Good evening. And I will send this, you don't need to take a lot of notes, I will send this out tonight or early tomorrow morning, as I have been doing. Financials, preliminary fund balance as of June 30th, 23 is approximately $31.5 million, which is 22.1% of the FYE 23 general fund adopted budget. One supplemental appropriation was approved towards the end of the year that hasn't affected that yet, the $384,000 debt service. General contingency budget for 24 was appropriated at $300,000. That's where we're at. Capital reserve fund balance as of June 30th, 23 unaudited is estimated at $1.17 million. Final numbers will be available once all year-end entries have been posted. Other updates, one in terms of, there was a comment about me being able to place something on the agenda for the RTM. That's not the case. I don't have that ability. I can ask the moderator. But, and then in terms of conspiracy theory about not having the assessments go up on elected officials, I obviously take offense at that, and anyone who knows the process would know that'd be near impossible. Let's see. The DOT approached Greg Hanover, the Public Works Director, and I just in the last few weeks. We had a meeting with them 2 weeks ago. They've been working on another Groton Long Point Road bridge, the one over the Amtrak Railroad. We did not know about it until they already have 4 options that they want to consider. So they introduced that to us and told us some of the prices and what our cost share would be, which we would hope to get that money paid hopefully by the state. But you'll be seeing some more information coming out on that soon. And there's a little bit more information in this report for you later. I don't know if anybody's seen it yet, but on our website, the building and zoning permits are now available to be filled out online, which is great. Still in the first couple of weeks, so a couple little bugs, but it seems to be working pretty well. DOT just let me know that on South I-95 exit 89, they will be installing a wrong-way detection system. Various things, cameras, other things, but eventually, if you're going the wrong way, red lights would flash, and the police would be notified, the state police would be notified, as well as the DOT center. Let's see. Electric boat are going to be coming to the town council soon. They want to give an update to the council on hiring, as well as they want to talk about housing, because they're running into an issue having trouble hiring without more housing. Human Services, TVCCA is going to place a energy worker at Human Services the first week of September, and then Thursdays ongoing to better assist those in need of energy payment assistance, so that'll be great. A note on hiring issues, Parks and Rec have 0 summer help this year. They haven't been able to get anybody. So they're having a little trouble keeping up with mowing and such just because they don't have anybody. We are looking at pay and what we can do in the future to change that, because now you can get more other places. Parks and Rec Master Plan, we'll have a public workshop on October 2nd. It's going to be presented to the COW tentatively on September, let's see here, I got the date wrong. Eventually, it's going to be a public workshop. It's going to go to the Parks and Rec Commission, be presented to the COW, and eventually come back to the COW again and then to the town council. I believe they're hoping to get it all done by the November council meeting, but we'll see. One of our 2 police social workers, and you may have seen it, the article in the paper, they're going to establish, one of them is establishing limited hours at the library to meet with the public. So that'll be great. They'll have set hours where people can come pick their brain on things. And you may have noticed that the roof is finally back on the pavilion at the corner there of Fort Hill Road and Paquonic River. Our guys did it internally rather than contracting out. They did a fantastic job. I think it was a little more work than they realized it was going to be. Solar trash compactors, we've ordered a couple for downtown Mystic as tests. They'll be in at the end of this month and then hopefully installed soon after, and we'll see how those solar compactors work. I won't read it all here, but I did put an update in here on Quaker Farm Road because I've had some questions on that lately. And it was already mentioned about Sutton Park. And then we had a groundbreaking for Triton Square, the former Sealy School, last week, which went really well. And that'll bring in a minimum of $1 million a year. That's it.
Okay, thank you. All right. Mr. Chairman Powers, please, for Finance Committee. Chair Powers? Yes. Thank you.
John, can you move me into a panelist? John, can you move me into a panelist?
Oh, sure.
You have 32 people.
Sorry about the delay, folks. Anyway, thank you, Madam Moderator. We held a financial committee meeting on Wednesday, August 3rd, 2023. Had to do with the American Rescue Plan and the Climate Action Plan grant. So we called to order at 7:01. Representatives Chase, Fritchie, Massett, and Powers were present. Representative Gardner, Norman, and Scott were excused. The new business was the 2023-467-2 American Rescue Plan action, and was Bike Groton. So I'll read the resolution in. Resolution approving and adopting a $15,000 of the American Rescue Plan Act Fund to Bike Groton for the bike pump track. Whereas Bike Groton was originally awarded $25,000 in ARPA funds by the town council as a contribution to the bike pump track, and whereas Bike Groton has raised $80,000 through donations for the development of the track that will ultimately be given to the town for programs after construction, and whereas the original bids for the project came in higher than expected, and whereas Bike Groton needs to raise an additional $30,000 for the project, and has requested additional ARPA funds to help close the gap between what has been currently raised and the projected cost. Now therefore be it resolved that the town council authorized an additional $15,000 ARPA funds to Bike Groton for the bike pump track project, and be it further resolved that the Groton representative town meeting approves the town council's authorization to award $15,000 from ARPA funds to Bike Groton for the bike pump track. It was, Representative Chase read that into the record. It was seconded by Representative Massett, and it was passed through committee at 4-0 to 0.
Is there a second? Second. Second. All right. It was Kathy, Representative. Representative Hanscom, your hand was up first.
Sorry, I didn't realize it was up. My bad.
That's okay. Representative Merritt.
I just had a couple of questions for the town manager on his report. On employment, is there any foreseeable future in looking at the employment of the Highway Department and Parks and Rec ground crew?
What is, this is about the bike.
Do we have a motion on the floor?
Right.
All right,
Motion.
Yeah.
let's speak to it.
There was a motion and there was a second.
Okay.
So
I
we're
had my
talking about
hand
the
up, but
bike.
I had my hand up, but apparently we were looking at Mr. Powers.
I was looking at you, but you were talking, can you?
No, this was prior to him stepping up to the podium.
Oh,
Was on the last item when,
I'm sorry, I
Town manager
didn't see your hand up, so can you hold
Okay, I
for?
can wait for the vote.
We have a motion on the floor,
Right,
so we're gonna
right.
talk about that right now. Any other questions regarding, yes, Counselor, Borderline?
Thank you. It would be much easier to do it under public comment and be done at the beginning. I just want to say that I'm in full support of this. This group, by themselves has, for the benefit of the town, ran out and did all the fundraising on their own. As we know, during COVID, folks were seeking outdoor adventures. This will be an asset to the town. They originally were asking for only $9,000, and the council moved the number up to $15,000. And one of the rationales that I agreed to support this was the fact that in the end, the town would be the one taking care of this property. So all that money that this group is raising is basically being given to the town. So if they're short a little bit, and they ask for 9, the 15 just seemed to make sense. So with it being right there at the entrance to Bluff Point, where we get a lot of traffic of tourism from different towns coming to seek to ride bikes the trail, the pump track will be another addition. So I just hope that the RTM will support this amount. As I stated, it's not lost money, it's being reinvested into our town, and I think it's a great investment for our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Seeing none. We are voting to move $15,000, or to approve $15,000 of ARPA funding to the Bike Groton. All those in favor, please say aye or raise your hand if you are online.
aye.
Aye.
Yeah. Okay, you can put down your hands. All those opposed? Representative Bailey, are you opposed?
Yes.
Okay. Anyone else? Anyone abstaining? Okay, that motion passes 31 to 1 to 0. Thank you. We are moving on to item 2023-503, Climate Action Plan Grant. We have the Sustainability Manager, Megan Renato. Am I saying that correctly? Here tonight also. If you have any questions, if she wants to come up, please. And
Representative
go ahead.
Chase, could you read our resolution? As we went forward, we discussed, I'll let Representative Chase read into the record, though.
Okay.
All right, 2023-503-2 Climate Action Plan Grant, resolution endorsing the acceptance of the Climate Resilience Fund Grant to develop a climate action plan, whereas Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection, DEEP, issued the first Climate Resilience Fund, CRF, solicitation in September 2022. The fund, which was established through Executive Order 21-3, EO21-3, provides financial support to Connecticut communities to develop climate plans and resiliency-focused projects. And whereas the Office of Planning and Development Services, OPDS, submitted a proposal to the program to support the development of a Town Climate Action Plan, CAP, in November 2022, and whereas the CAP, to be developed through this grant, will set the course for how the town will accomplish the commitments made in the March 2021 resolution of commitment to address climate change, resiliency, and sustainability as a central management principle for all actions of the town government, and will define the priorities to be pursued by the Sustainability and Resilience Manager in the upcoming years. And whereas having the CAP will be essential for the pursuit of other funding opportunities, many of which require that the project for which funding is requested was named in a prior planning effort. And whereas on June 14, 2023, the state of Connecticut announced the projects to be awarded funding, which included $200,000 for the Town of Groton Office of Planning and Development Services Climate Action Plan proposal. Now therefore be it resolved that on July 3rd, 2023, the Groton Town Council endorsed the acceptance of the Climate Resilience Fund Award and authorized the town manager to sign all required grant documents and for such program, and be it further resolved that the Groton Representative Town Meeting authorizes the action of the Groton Town Council to accept the $200,000 Climate Resilience Fund Award to support the development of a town climate action plan. I so move.
Second.
Okay. Motion was made by Representative Chase, seconded by Representative Powers.
Yeah, and we had a discussion, Megan came forward, she was very polite and honest and told us everything about the overview and the funding and planning and the implementation of the plan and how the priorities and the expectations of the plan were. And she's here tonight to answer any of our questions.
And did you say the vote of your
Oh, the
committee?
vote was 4-0 to 0.
Okay, thank you. Ms.
For
Granado?
information,
Yes. Yes, Representative Scott?
the agenda that is online, yeah, thank you, the agenda that is online, the resolution that was just read into the minutes is not reflected on the agenda, and I don't know if that matters, but there was an additional resolved paragraph that's missing.
Can you read the additional resolve?
No, it's not there.
It's not there?
It's not on the agenda, so I can't read it, but it was read into the record. I just don't know for record-keeping purposes.
It does not have to be in the agenda?
Well, there is,
Okay.
in your packet, let's see. You looked at that too?
Yeah. So it was read into the record. I'm going to have her speak first, and then we'll, okay, go ahead, Ms. Granado. Can you just give us an overview?
Yeah, certainly. So thank you. First of all, this is my first RTM meeting, so I appreciate the time on the agenda this evening. And to just kind of build a little bit of what was read in the resolution there, in 2021, the town council signed a resolution committing the town to becoming leaders on climate action, and that was also the resolution that created my position. And then when my position was advertised, creating the town's first climate action plan was a really big part of that description. So I've been in this position for just shy of a year, and going after funding to really help support us do that climate action plan approach was, of course, my #1 priority. So very thankful to the State Department of Energy and Environmental Protection for selecting our proposal. And we want this to be a plan that's put together that incorporates a lot of community outreach, community voice. So we're going to be trying different outreach approaches, trying to get more involvement from the community. We're going to be focusing on both adaptation and mitigation. So what that means is we're going to be figuring out how to grapple with the climate impacts that we're already faced with, as well as those that are projected to be coming down the pike. And we're also going to be looking at how we can reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. And all of this, you know, like the resolution says, it creates a roadmap, but it's really the start of the discussion. So this plan, once it's in place, is going to set my priorities, the priorities that I'm working on with partners for how we can really build out this vision of a resilient Groton moving forward.
Okay. Representative Evan.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I just wanted to congratulate you on getting this grant. I mean, I think it's a great achievement, and you know, you got out of the gate running apparently, and so this is, you know, evidence that the idea of having a sustainability manager was a good one and will pay for itself in the long run. So I just want to congratulate you on a successful grant, because we all know that funds are competitive and scarce, and you apparently hit the mark, so thank you.
Thank you.
Representative Scott.
Thank you. My question, can you define for me what a...
You just froze. Can you define what is a?
resiliency-focused project?
Certainly. So the entire focus of the project is going to be climate change. So with resiliency, we think a lot about how we can prepare ourselves to withstand or bounce back from hazards that we face. So for example, when we have these large storm events that come through, how are we building out our lifeline systems? How are we making sure that our critical infrastructure is protected? How are we cross-knitting emergency response with all the planning that we need there for infrastructure improvements that we can be looking at now? So for me, resiliency is really that. It's how can we best position ourselves so that when these hazards happen, we are able to withstand them and maybe even be stronger through that process.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Representative Cerf.
Hi. I would also like to congratulate you on getting the grant, but at the same time, I'm sitting here very angry because the planet is on fire. I just read today that Hawaii is on fire. And it's taken us all this time to finally do something about climate change. And what you're proposing to do is just protect ourselves against what's going to happen. There's absolutely nothing proactive in what we could do to stop these temperature rises. And that makes me angry because protecting ourselves isn't going to do us any good. We're doomed already if we don't stop it. So I would really like to hear from you, and that's my first question because I have another one. I'd like to hear from you how we're going to stop this energy use, how we can educate our population to put in the right kind of light bulbs, to not use gas, like not idle the car while in a parking lot or waiting for the kids in the school. There are all kinds of websites that suggest all kinds of things that people can do to help stop the warming. That's what we really need to do. That's what is urgent. Now my second question is, and that makes me even angrier because I know that that's going to happen too. How much are we going to spend of that money on consultants? Because that's always what we do. And then we're going to engage the public, and we're going to have these surveys that are going to go on forever, and people won't even be properly notified about them. I've never been notified about a single survey in the last 3 years. And how much money is going to go to that so that by the time we finish with the consultants and the surveys and collecting the information, we will have done nothing. And we're burning up right now. We have to do something, or flooding, or thunderstorms, or you name it. It's a disaster. We have to do more. I really want us to do more. Data centers, for instance, we don't need. That uses up a gigantic amount of energy. I don't even know who suggested that if we're supposed to be part of a climate change plan. Who on earth suggested that we should be burning multiple megawatts of energy every second for these data centers? Seriously, let's get serious.
Okay, so there's a couple of questions there that I jotted down, so I'm going to try to kind of weave together a response to all three of them. I am in this position, as you can imagine, because this is something I care very strongly about, right? I am also very angry about the status of the world. And so I think a lot about what I can do in my purview. So for the town of Groton, I think that we are putting together a town plan, but to me, that influence doesn't stop at the town borders. My first year, like I mentioned, I've been here for just shy of a year. It's been a lot about building the community of who's working on climate change. And that's not just within Groton, that's within the region. And it's not just the typical people that always show up to events talking about climate change. It's how can we involve the school system so we are building future generations of climate-informed youth. It is reaching out to different partners on a regional basis. It's having regional discussions. What we do in downtown Mystic on the Groton side also impacts what happens in Stonington, and what kind of synergy can we build together on things like that. So although the focus of this grant, because I applied as this position in the town of Groton, is focused on the town's climate action, my vision isn't just, okay, we are only going to focus on our municipal buildings and we're only going to do the minimum. Really what we're trying to do is grow a larger response, a larger community, larger momentum behind this, bringing in different partnerships, engaging the business community, So really trying to go after different approaches than we have previously, because it impacts all of us, right? Climate change affects everything that we do. So I'm interested, and I'd love to have conversations with RTM members about, within your networks, how can we have additional conversations to bring more people in? How do we make sure that people from each of your districts are represented? And then from that, how can we take what we're doing in Groton and really try to make connections outside, statewide, larger within the New England region as well. We're part of a New England Municipal Sustainability Network. So how can our work here have a larger footprint? Energy use approaches, I'm really glad you brought that up. That is something that is going to be a significant part of the plan. So the town doesn't currently, for example, have any goals around greenhouse gas reductions. We need goals. We need accountability. We need to be able to track our progress over time, and we need to be able to share that information in a way that the public can see it and easily find it, so they can hold us accountable. So we're going to be having a lot of conversations about, okay, what should those goals be? What actions could we take to actually achieve those goals? And then how we're going to be doing that accountability and that measuring and that tracking. So another good example I think there is, over this past year, I've been working with UConn. There's a lab led by Dr. Amy Thompson. They help municipalities do energy and benchmarking, an EPA portfolio manager, for free. So I've been working with her, and we're about maybe 75% of the way there. It's very data intensive. But that's one of the things that we've been working on, so that when we start this project, we know the baseline of information, and we're going into these conversations being able to make educated goals that then we really expect people to hold us to, and I want us to hold us to. And so with the energy side of things, it's going to be, of course, what can the town do for managing its buildings, fleet conversion, what are we doing with electric vehicle chargers, what are we doing for solar implementation, what are we doing for batteries, but it's also going to be, how can we connect local residents to things that can be meaningful to them? And sometimes that comes with, financial rebates. So how can we help people become aware of and take advantage of, on both the Eversource and the Groton utility sides, the programs available? I've been talking with other towns in Connecticut that are doing heat smart campaigns around solar. Some of them are solar, but also heat pump implementation. Easy technologies that could really make a difference, can actually save money in the long run as well. But sometimes people aren't aware, or there's a technology barrier where they say, my typical furnace has always worked for me, so why try something new? Or they've heard that heat pumps aren't effective here. So how can we put together communication materials? How can we be going out into neighborhoods, having conversations with people, trying to change their minds, trying to bring that information to them? So that's going to be part of this as well. The question about budget, we are planning to hire a consultant team. With that, we were very deliberate in our grant application that we want this project to be really representative of the community, and we really want to do more community outreach, like I mentioned, and we want to build in facets of inclusion and representation. So we are planning to solicit for a consultant team, so that we're not just attracting sort of like the big box consultants, but ones that have these different types of expertise. And the expectation also, and we're gonna have to figure this out as we write that RFP, is the consultants are going to have to build into those budgets funding to do this community outreach. So how are we actually getting people in the door to have these conversations we want to have? How are we providing incentives for their participation? How are we honoring their time that we're asking them to share with us? So that is going to be a component of the budget as well.
Representative Thomas.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. So looking at page 45 on the agenda, we're looking at $200,000 for the consultant. Is that
the total
accurate?
project budget is $200,000
Right.
of the DEEP grant, correct?
Right, and it looks like all of that would be allotted towards contractual services. We request $200,000 to contract undetermined consulting firms to assist the town with aspects of climate action plans.
Correct.
I am in full support of taking strong action towards building resiliency and sustainability and, combating climate change, for sure. But I share Representative Cerf's concerns about the consultants that this town hires. I'm just, and the time that it takes to do the surveys, do the things, like I was hoping that with someone coming in your position, that there would be, sort of a more like a boots on the ground type approach of like, okay, so, and with the fact that there is a resiliency and sustainability task force that has existed in this town for many years, many of whom that are on that task force have great experience and a background expertise already, and they already live here. I'm wondering, like, is there not maybe a way to better use this money as opposed to leaning on an outside consulting firm that has to come in, get, their boots on the ground and kind of figure out like what's going on and connect with the community when they're not from here. Working with the people that are here. The task force just recently had a meeting where they're contemplating their mission moving forward now that you're hired. And I would humbly suggest that maybe perhaps that they could become consultants for you. They've already done so much work for free. They volunteer. So that could free up this $200,000 to go to actual, shovel-ready projects, so to speak, rather than going to some consultant that lives out of town, comes in, stays, and does stuff, and has to figure out, takes 6 months to figure out where, the big why is. We need action now. We have a task force. We have people that live here that have expertise. I would encourage you maybe to reconsider that. But, now it's in the grant. It's a part of the award. So how binding is this? Or is there a chance to redirect if you take some time, reflect on it, and maybe reconsider?
So the Deep Climate Resilience Fund, which is providing this award, the track that we applied to, which is track 1, it's planning dollars only. We cannot redirect this to implementation. But I want to highlight a couple of things there because I understand your concerns. One of the things that was mentioned in the whereas clauses is that, and let me back up a little bit. You've all probably heard there's sort of a fire hose of funding at the federal level. Inflation Reduction Act, Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. There's all of this money to support climate action. So why take the time with planning? I think a couple important reasons. One is that when you apply for those federal grant opportunities, they say, okay, great, show us the plan that this was identified in, the plan that had community involvement that this was identified in. So you have to have a plan. Second is that, and I think I highlighted this a little bit in my last response, although we have done climate planning within Groton, we don't have some of the basic things we need. We don't have lists of priorities. We don't have goals that have been informed by community voices. So although we could jump ahead, and certainly, there's projects that I've been thinking over the past couple of years, but if we jump over that important planning step, we're not giving the opportunity for the people in Groton to have a voice in setting what those priorities are. And that, to me, is the most problematic part, because there's a lot of people in Groton who have not been involved in our climate planning. And so if we really want our priorities and our goals to be representative of our town and the needs of our town, I feel strongly that we need to do this planning action. I understand the concern about consulting firms. I think that one of the things that we'll be evaluating when we look at firms is what their local connections are, right? We don't want to waste 6 months explaining to them where the big why is. That being said, I think the appeal of bringing in a consulting firm that has worked with other similar municipalities is that we can learn from their expertise. So yeah, the science is what the science is. A lot of us in the room probably have a good handle on that science. But how you apply that science, how you find the right goals for the communities, how you structure engagement and outreach as approaches that get the community voices in place, those are things that a consultant can be really beneficial with. But I want to also impress on you that my time is sort of leveraged in all of this. So for a perfect example, we're working right now on the Downtown Mystic Resiliency and Sustainability Plan. That was another project. We got a grant, we hired a consultant. That consultant did 3 days of field surveys out in the community. I was there with them, knocking on doors, walking down Gravel Street, walking down Pearl Street. Hi, my name's Megan. I'm the town sustainability manager. I want to talk to you about flooding, right? So I am taking an extremely active role because that's my job, and this is what I care about. And this is how I make sure that we're holding the contractors to the standards they should be held to, but we're also infusing the Groton specific needs of the entire planning project.
Thank you for that. To build off of that response, I would, again, understood, okay, the money is restricted for planning. Again, maybe it could be used to help support the task force who has the local connections, and maybe develop an idea of canvassing, because with their local connections in the community that are already pre-existing, it could be have a spider web effect. And rather than spend the money on an outside consulting firm, spend the money on infrastructure costs to help like get canvassing software and material you can leave on the door, phone software they can use to call, follow up on the door knocking, things like that. There are ways to do smart canvassing, and maybe rather than spending money on outside services, bring in the volunteers that are already engaged and active, and have some level of expertise, and have their own community networks, and get them on the ground, support them with like software and other infrastructure to help get the message out and create community engagement. Because honestly, like surveys, things like this, or having like symposiums and seminars and listening sessions, those all have very limited effect because people don't necessarily have the time to show up and be a place for a certain period of time and put dots on boards. What we need is an aggressive canvassing. If information is what you need, and what you need to plan and get community involvement, then the way to do that is to knock on doors and make contact with people, make phone calls, knock on doors. And there's a lot of equipment out there to help support that I think the $200,000 could help support. And then we have volunteers in the community that are willing to get involved and pitch in their time. And the software and the infrastructure stuff could help support them and organize them so that no matter who shows up any given day, there's a central point, central data collection point where you can manage where people are going
Your 5 minutes
and what
is
they're
up.
receiving.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Bordelon.
I just wanted to thank you for your efforts. I'm a huge support of resiliency and sustainability in our community, living here with the coast on all sides from the city to the River of Mystic down to GLP. And we're seeing it. It was on the news the other night about the fact that there's been a 10-year study, and they showed on red where they're measuring snow that's been decreased by 50% already. One year we had 60-something inches, and the next few years they're calculating 30. So things are warming, things are changing, and we are in the red being affected. Why? They're not 100% sure. Is it the ozone layer? Is it other climate things? We haven't really pinpointed it. So I'm excited for the town to be a resiliency and sustainability community, but I think we owe it to the people who voted in, like you had stated, for the position. But I also think that Resilience and Sustainability Committee, who came to the council and was spearheading really hard, advocating for this, there was a recent referral to disband, and it got its support. It hasn't made it to the agenda yet, but to disband the Resilience and Sustainability Committee. And I feel like they're one of our backbones of our neighbors who are doing the work for free. So I guess my question is that correlation, and would that be beneficial as we're applying for grants to disband the Resilience and Sustainability Committee that has basically kind of taken up and charged this issue with our town? I think that they're a huge asset. But again, I wanted to commend you and thank you for being here and being a part of this and really getting out there and doing your due diligence, but definitely questions about the impact of the resiliency and sustainability if they were disbanded.
I don't know that that has anything to do with this grant.
I'm asking in reference to we're hiring contractors, so they're a resource to our town. So I just, wanted to see, would that have an impact on you? Because those are resources and people with, degrees that live here that are volunteering their time.
I don't think it's appropriate to put her on the spot in terms of thoughts on the committee, since it's now a referral to the town council. Leave it at the policy stage.
Sure. I just think that they're a huge asset and would be detrimental to our town to disband something. I think the more the merrier.
We need to stay on this topic, though.
I'm there. And I just wanted to thank you for all your efforts, but also the Resiliency and Sustainability Commission committee is what helped get you here. And I think that they deserve the respect. Thank you.
No, Sim already spoke once, so I'm going to Representative Gauthier. Representative Evans already spoke once. So Representative Gauthier, okay, now Representative Evans.
Thank you. I was reminded by Representative Merritt that I served on a sustainable community task force I was the vice chair of it, and it lasted 2 years, I believe. We issued a final report in 2010, and I hope you have that in your records. One of our main recommendations was to hire someone in your position, but we had a list of other recommendations, which I would urge you to look at when you're putting together this plan and to make available to the consultant. And I'd also like to note that we had many public hearings or public meetings to solicit public feedback on putting together that plan for climate mitigation and adaptation. That task force was disbanded after our final report. A new energy efficiency and energy conservation committee was formed. I served on that as well, and I believe we fed into the plan of conservation and development that was developed around that time. So you'll also find some planning in the POC&D as well. But what I'd like to say beyond, and I understand where Representative Thomas is going, that it's nice to have more action than planning. I totally, as someone who deals with grants for a living, I understand the benefit of having a plan that you can refer to and fulfill the objectives in it. But I'd like to just say that our most vulnerable populations aren't necessarily going to be reached by software packages. And so there's going to have to be an effort that other consultants haven't necessarily made in the past. The last consultant hired for the POC&D, I was a little dismayed at the effort they made to engage the public. We've had other consultants who've done a much better job, in my opinion. So things like childcare, transportation, if you really want to have the voice of people who are vulnerable, then these things need to be considered in getting people to meetings or having meetings where they live. And so I would just like to throw that out there as really important things when you're considering going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Cerf.
Yes, getting on this topic again reminds me that I was first on the RTM with Representative Eben, and when we suggested when they were building new schools that they look at geothermal energy to heat the schools, we were laughed out of the room. When we suggested to the police force that perhaps they could use batteries in their trunks to not have to idle the cars for hours and hours the way they did, they laughed us out of the room again. It was just the two of us fighting for these things. What I would like to say is you have more expertise in this town and more dedicated citizens The whole ground conservation advocates are all, passionate about climate change and sustainability. I was on the sustainability task force that is still chaired by Zell Stever with SIMA when I first got on the council. It was created by my good friend Paul Ann Sheets. And staff opposed us at the time with anything beyond just changing the light bulbs in the buildings. It was incredibly frustrating, but we stuck with it because we thought, well, we'll get a foothold this way. But you don't need to spend a ton of time on this town. We have been worrying about this for 15 years now. We have experts everywhere. We have people dedicated to go out and talk to the community. We have people dedicated to give you more ideas than you could implement in a lifetime because we've been sitting on them for 10 years. So why do we need to waste time with these consultants again? I find it, as, what's her name? I forgot that little girl who said, the planet's on fire. This is a lot of blah, blah again. And I would really like to stop for since I've been hearing it for 15 years, I would like to stop with the blah, 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 and I would just like to get to action. And you know very well, you're an expert on this. Why do we just keep making plans and hire consultants? Can you give us something more than that?
Thank you.
So I think two things in response. These plans, as you know, if you do them well, if you do extensive work, you cross all the T's, you dot all the I's, it takes a lot of time.
We don't have that time.
Representative, sir, if you got to let her speak.
I understand the frustration. Okay, so let me go to my second point. When I say planning, I do not just say, oh, we're just going to, here and there, we're gonna say we're gonna do all these things and number them 1 through 1,000,000. When I talk about planning, what I mean is actionable planning. So although it's not necessarily sticking a shovel in the ground, I'm thinking about what are the systems changes we need to legitimately make Groton and how it operates more sustainable. So what are the programs we need to put in place so sustainability and resilience is considered throughout tile and operations, throughout budget review? And I know that that was something that I believe the task force you all worked on had put in place previously. How is sustainability considered in budget review? I don't know that that's done currently. So how can we build that out? And what were the stumbling blocks? If it didn't work, why? And how can we fix that? Was it staff education? Was it staff training? Was it having a point person such as myself to be able to have the conversations with the people to explain and to really talk through it? So we're not just saying, okay, please go fill out this form to the best of your ability, but I'm saying we can do this together. So although I understand the frustration with planning, to me, like I said before, although it might not be a shovel on the ground, that doesn't mean it's not time well spent, because we are thinking about all aspects of how the work we do is done and what we need to do to change it in light of the climate crisis we're facing.
Representative Gauthier.
Thank you. I absolutely agree. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. I think that's at the crux of this. $200,000 is a lot for consultants. We definitely have a consultant culture here in town. I say facetiously that we might be more cost effective just to hire Mr. Barry as a full-time staff. But I digress. I'm really concerned about what is our results-based accountability that's being built into these consultant contracts and these efforts. I don't really care too much about the outputs. I've seen too many sticker charts. I've seen too many PowerPoints. There are so many shelved reports. How are we going to ensure that the outcomes of whatever this plan may be is actually accountable to residents and to taxpayers? What is your plan to ensure we get outcomes that mean something? Thank you.
Yep. So through the process, I think it's through trying to build a very transparent process. In my mind, this isn't hiring a consultant saying, okay, this is your charge, good luck. Call us in a month when you feel like you have something to update. This is constant communication, constant oversight, building working groups, involving people, sharing the outcomes. You know, I had a conversation with a colleague just today about when we have a public meeting and people give us their opinions, that's time well spent. We asked for those opinions, so what are we doing with it? You have to be accountable. You have to honor people's time. And why ask for it if you're not going to use it? So how are we, you know, I would like to design approaches where we are constantly providing that feedback. So we are tracking those recommendations. We know for every single one of them what the decision was made. Just because a recommendation was made doesn't necessarily mean it's one that works. But if it's not, can we have a conversation? Can we do something to adjust it? What can we report back? So if that person says, hey, I told you on March 12th, I really thought you should do X, Y, or Z, why isn't in the report? We can say, oh, we know. And this is exactly the process. These were the follow-up conversations. Maybe we have follow-up conversations with you, and this is the result. So I think sharing information as much as we can. I hate to say it online because I don't want to make it sound like that's the end-all be-all you put on a website. I mean, people can't find the website. So how are we, whenever we're doing these public engagements, how are we making that information available? How are we continuing conversations so it's not just a one-time engagement and see you later? And I feel like I had a second part to say that I'm totally blanking on now.
It's going to be the first thing on the website.
Representative Surf, you do not have the floor, please. Representative Gothier, do you want to?
Just to follow up on that, like, what is the tangible thing I'm going to see?
Oh, yeah, sorry. You pinged my mind.
Did that prompt you?
Yes. So when I wrote the proposal, and I forget which page it's on, I kind of talked about the main components of this report. So there will be a report with bulleted recommendations. These are our marching orders of what we have to do. There is also going to be a large component that what is our tracking and accountability measures? What are we doing? How are we doing it? Who's holding it responsible? It shouldn't just be me holding us responsible. How are we engaging people outside in the community holding us responsible? How are we reporting back to them? On what interval are we reporting back? Through what methods are we reporting back to them? It shouldn't just be here's 1 year of implementation report that sits on the website. That doesn't cut it. When I talk about all of this, and I love to hear that you all, recognize the tremendous expertise that we have in Groton, because we want to include that. And with me, I'm still just learning the community. My door is open. I want to connect to as many people as possible. I would love, if you have networks of people that want to work on this, please connect me, because we are stronger together in this effort. So again, to me, this isn't just, we write a plan and it sits on a shelf. And when someone asks us, we say, recommendation B5A, yeah, we're going to do that next year. This, to me, is much bigger than that. And it really is, it's building so much more of community momentum, picking up on the tremendous work that's been done already, trying to expand it even further, doing actionable planning that sets us up to making those system changes, and also being able to go after if there are, other big ticket items, so that we're prepared to say, you know what, our community priorities are this. We heard this from the input of the community, and now we have the standing to go after these things.
Yes. Oh, hold on. Representative Scott had his hand up next.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. A couple of questions. I actually wanted to kind of build on what Representative Gothier was, I think, getting to. We were going to have this action plan proposal. I am also concerned that we're going to drop $200,000 on consultants or you or other staff members to create a document that'll go right in the library with a pile of other documents that are collecting dust in planning and zoning and other offices throughout the town. Where's the teeth that would say to the council or us as the RTM body that these proposals or the items that would be in this document would actually be implemented on?
So I'm not entirely sure if I understand the direction of the question. So what are the teeth we're going to be building into the plan to make sure that the recommendations are implemented? Is that sort of the question?
No, what I'm saying, in this piece of legislation that's before us tonight, we're basically going to direct the town to spend $200,000, whether it's grant money or our money, it's still taxpayer money regardless, but we're gonna spend $200,000 to create this proposal, this action plan proposal. So once this proposal is finished, then what?
Sorry, the funding is to create the plan, not the proposal.
Okay, plan, proposal, whatever it is. Once it's done, then what?
The funds are out there for the infrastructure. There are tons of funds right now, which you have to have this plan in place, so as soon as this plan is in place, then we start seeking them immediately to take advantage of those funds being out there. That's the whole point, is to get those funds.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is this is a document that we're getting a grant for $200,000 that's gonna lead us into additional grants. So is this document gonna be written in the direction of us being able to earn or win certain grants?
That's the intent, yes. And then just to mention too, this is not the only project Megan works on. She just got another grant for a couple chargers, which is coming anyways, electric vehicle chargers. Very hopeful, yeah. But she's very spread thin. So if this was going to be your only project, if she had to take this on without the consultants, you'd be probably talking a lot longer period of time, which could end up having us miss out on grants.
So what are some of the things that you're seeing in the pipeline that we would be writing this document to?
Yeah, I think, it kind of spans a number of things. People bring up a lot sea level rise, larger infrastructure projects. That's certainly on the table. Roadway vulnerability is a huge one. So for our infrastructure transport assets, especially as we think about emergency response, potentially this will help position us to be in a much better position to go after those grants as well. We are going to be doing evaluations of some of our own town lands in terms of resiliency projects. So going through that process of being able to conceptualize what some of those resiliency features should be, things like living shorelines, for example, could help position us for future grants. Electric vehicle chargers, solar siting, fleet conversion, energy efficiency upgrades of our own buildings. These are all things that are going to be components of this planning process that we're going to be working through these evaluations so that when we come out the other side, if there are things that we can implement that day, fantastic. And I also don't want it to make it seem, this was a question I got from the town council, there are things that we are working on in the meantime. So it's not that I'm putting all my eggs in this planning basket and sitting there twiddling my thumb saying, well, until we have the plan, we can't do anything. I am constantly trying to figure out what we can be doing in the meantime, especially when things seem like slam dunks. So through this process, though, it's going to help us do some of those evaluations needed to really pinpoint the projects that align with federal funding that we can go after and align with our own resources that we can also be putting into place immediately. So it's going to be probably a balance. There's going to be some things recommended that we can tackle ourselves. There's going to be things that we have to tackle with partners. There is going to be things that we have to go after larger federal grants for. There's going to be things that we can maybe achieve with some state grants as well.
Okay. I'm torn on this. My last question before I make my final statement, I don't see a deadline in this document, or maybe it was in that last paragraph that's not on the town record, but when does this have to be completed?
Yeah, so that's a great question. We have not started scoping this out with the state, so it might be subject to change as we work through that process. I'm trying to remember, I think I wrote it out as an 18-month planning process, but that was for the entire grant, so that included, I think, about 6 months to get the consultant team on board. We certainly want to get it done as quickly as possible. These things do take some time, especially if you want to be going out into the community and hearing those community voices and trying to get different kinds of engagement in place. So, you know, I think, yeah, I wrote it originally as in April through December of the following year. So that was kind of a rough estimation, but that will all be honed in as we go through the scoping process with the state, assuming that we're allowed to move forward.
I'm torn on something like this. You know, I feel like every time, you know, first of all, I don't disagree with Representative Surf and Thomas. You know, the climate is in a different place. We're seeing extreme weather. We're seeing, you know, we're seeing a lot of things that we should be paying attention to when it comes to our climate. But I think what we end up with is, you know, reports that make recommendations that are silly, like no more gas stoves, or things that are expensive, like if you have a home that's maybe 10 years old and your air conditioner quits, you can't just put more Freon or whatever the gas of the month is in your air conditioner. You got to drop $5,000 to replace your whole system. So I'm not sure this is the right thing for me to support. I do support, you know, protecting our environment, but I feel like this is $200,000. It's going to lead to another $200,000, $500,000 money that you're going to be asking us to spend in grants, which actually helps to increase inflation. So I may not support this.
Representative Powers and then Representative Hanscom.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Megan, as we spoke in committee, you were going to have an update for us, correct? Like quarterly as to where you are with your process?
Correct.
So both the council and the RTM will be updated on a regular basis as to where we're going. Is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Representative Hanscom.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, as a grant professional myself, I really highly commend you for getting this award, and I fully support the whole planning piece of it. Just knowing, it's my experience with federal grants, and having that plan in place and having that plan is going to really be able to spearhead you to be able to apply for other funding and other grants. And I think also keeping in mind that when people think about consultants, I think a lot of people think that it's just some like random person that's, you know, not familiar with, you know, the town. You know, I think that really, in my experience, a lot of times when you do bring in an outside person who's being paid to do the work, not just a volunteer, they're going to put all of their effort in, you know, they're going to produce, you know, good results, and they're going to be, and as long as you find consultants that are, you know, a good match, I fully support it. And I know it is $200,000 sounds like a lot, but to be honest, it's really not that much. And I think that, you know, for this particular, and I also am familiar with how, you know, with the award, you can't just move money around and decide to spend it on something else. So I just wanted to put it out there that I fully support this, and I look forward to, you know, supporting the plan and seeing what we, you know, come up with as a town. Because the other plans that happened, those were, you know, 10, 15 years ago. That was a different Groton. That was a different, I didn't live here then. I wasn't part of that. I don't know. You know, I feel like we need to do what's for now.
Thank you.
Now it's for, you know, things are constantly changing. And so I really just want to say I fully support it, but thank you.
Thank you. Okay, seeing no further hands, we are voting to accept $200,000 for the Climate Resiliency Action Plan. Representative Hanscom, if you could, okay. All those in favor, please raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
Aye. I'm just waiting for those online to catch up. You can put your hands down. Okay, you can put your hands down. Representative Obrey, you could put your hand down, please. Okay. Those opposed, please raise your hand or raise your hand. Okay, I have Representative Dean Shinbrot, Representative Bailey, Representative Scott. Anyone else? Okay, you can put your hands down, please. Anyone abstaining? Okay, that motion passes 28 to 3 to 1. I'm sorry, 28 to 3 to 0. Sorry, my apologies. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
All right.
Megan. We made a motion to adjourn at 7:28. I make
Thank
a
you.
motion to accept the minutes to our meeting.
All those in favor, is there a second to accept the minutes? Who was
Second.
that? Representative Merritt? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Representative, are those yeses?
I'm raising my hand to say yes.
Okay, sorry. We'll do this again.
Yes.
All those in favor, please say aye or raise your hand. Okay, please lower your hands. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Okay, that passes with full support. Okay, we are moving on to liaison reports. Do we have any liaison reports tonight? Seeing none, we will move on to any budget discussion. Nothing. So we're on to other business. Representative Thomas.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. In accordance with the rules of 9.4 and 6.5, I would make a motion to suspend the rule 6.5 and so we can consider the power of initiative resolution for the Town Council to adopt the 2023 Town-Owned Property Reuse Committee Evaluation Policy under the RTM Power of Initiative. Whereas the Groton Town...
Hold on, that's as far as you can go.
Second.
Okay, the motion was made by Representative Thomas. The motion was seconded by Representative Gauthier. It is not debatable. So everybody is clear on procedure here. Under our rules, Rule 6.5.1 says no matter shall be acted upon by the RTM without recommendation first having been made on said matter by appropriate committee unless a motion to suspend the rules passes by a 2/3 vote of those present and voting, which is why it was not added to the agenda. Under power of initiative, it says introducing a motion with the power of initiative is the right of every voting member of the RTM as outlined by section 4.5 in the town charter. All proposals, motions, or resolutions using such right shall be clearly identified as such by including it in the title and term power of initiative and shall be subject to the rules of the RTM. In the event of the suspension of Rule 6.5.1, requiring committee action for the RTM to consider the matter, in order to allow consideration of an initiative, a motion under this power shall be submitted in writing, which it was, prior to the vote, and a recess shall be called to allow sufficient time for the member to reduce said motion to writing if necessary. So the motion was already sent to you all. So right now, what we are doing is we are voting to suspend the rules and add this to the agenda. So we can't discuss the actual resolution until we suspend the rules. That takes a 2/3 vote. So we will be doing a roll call vote. So what we are voting on is to suspend the rules to add this to the agenda.
I'm sorry,
We
point of
have-
information real quick. Did you say that the motion to suspend the rules is debatable or is not
It
debatable?
is not debatable.
All right, thank you.
It is not debatable. So we have currently, it is not debatable. Representative Surf, we're not asking.
Point of information?
What is your point of information?
I don't understand why this couldn't have just been added to new business in the agenda.
Because it was not sent to committee first.
We still could have put it under new
Okay,
business to send it to the committee.
This is not debatable.
Okay, we're going to vote.
Point of information, please.
Yes, Representative Scott. Oh, no, Representative Amboise. Sorry. Didn't see who was speaking.
Representative Amboise. Thank you, Madam Moderator. I just want to get a head count on how many members are present and what is the number that is required for a 2/3 vote, please?
We have 31 members present. We need 21 to get to 2/3. Representative Gauthier, do you have a question on that?
Just a point of information. So since we have to do this because it wasn't referred to committee, can the members of the RTM know whether or not it was asked to be referred out to committee and then denied by the moderator?
It was not asked to be referred to committee. It was asked to be added to the agenda.
Okay, thank you.
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay.
So we are voting to suspend the rules to add something to the agenda.
Okay, all right. Representative Adams, yes or no, or abstain?
No.
Amboise,
I will not be suspending the rules.
suspending the rules? Yes, or,
No,
I can't hear you.
not be.
Okay.
No.
Okay, thank you. Bailey?
No.
Burrell?
No.
Bright?
No.
Casper?
No.
Surf?
Yes.
Chase?
No.
Dean Shinbrot? I can't hear, I think that was a
No.
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 Okay, thank you. Eben?
Yes.
Fritchie?
Abstain.
Gauthier?
Yes.
Gibbs?
No.
Hanscom?
Yes.
Caden? Massett?
No.
McElroy?
Abstain.
Merritt?
No.
Norman? Aubrey?
No.
Perry?
Yes.
Powers K?
No.
Powers S?
No.
Pacino?
No.
Scott?
No.
Cimarero?
No.
Thomas?
Yes.
Watson?
No.
Wells?
Yes.
Whitney?
No.
And Rusk?
No. So that motion fails 7 to 20 to 4. Representative Gauthier.
I'd like to make a referral that this policy goes to the Community Development and Services Committee, as I feel that's the most cognizant.
I'm actually going to probably refer it to the Finance Committee because I believe that is more appropriate.
Could you explain why you feel that's more appropriate since it doesn't have any financial component?
It does have some financial components. Okay, I will consider it and I will make the appropriate referral. Representative Thomas.
Madam Moderator, I would just respectfully request that maybe it be considered to be referred to the Rules and Procedures Committee, since it is mostly procedure with only a small financial component.
Let me consider that, and we'll make a referral before the end of the week. Or before the next meeting, actually. Let me make the referral before the next meeting.
Point of information?
Representative Sir.
Yeah. You've got the referral.
I've got the referral. Representative Surf.
I have a point of information. There was a precedent for the RTM using the power of initiative while Representative Eben was moderator, and it had to do with establishing the Community Policing Committee, something like that. I'd like to know if the same procedure was used. Did you also not put it on the agenda? Did you insist that the rules be suspended in order to bring it up?
So I wasn't the moderator at the time, so no, I didn't do that.
Could we ask Representative Eben?
I believe it's irrelevant at this point. So it's been referred to committee, and I will take that up, and we'll make a decision on that, okay?
It was referred to committee the last time.
There was a recommendation to refer it to committee. I said that I would entertain that.
But you
and we
didn't,
will-
okay, but it was on the agenda and you didn't have to suspend the rules.
No.
It wasn't on the agenda. This was not on the agenda.
There was an email sent to me telling me to put it on the agenda.
No, I'm
and that
asking
was
about the
not
last
following
time. I'm
procedure.
asking about the last time
Okay.
the power of initiative was used.
Oh, I don't know.
Well, there was a motion, this is my recollection, I can get minutes for it, but my recollection is there was a motion for, or there was discussion to use power of initiative for the police and civilian study. But what ended up happening was the moderator appointed a group of RTM members to review the options. And during that point, there was a motion from the council to do exactly what the RTM wanted to do. So it was never actually used. It was just threatened, I would say. But it has been used many times in the past, and I have lots of minutes that show where it was used. But not on anything that's, you can't do I'm not going to go into the details. It's in your town charter. You have copies of it in your hands of what the town charter says about finance and personnel. You cannot do those things. But saying a policy, I don't want to get into it because it's not on the table. We can't discuss it. It's not on the floor.
But it was brought up under normal business the last time. It wasn't this whole obstacle course that we had to go through.
This is
I don't think.
Point of information,
Representative Amboise.
it was not, Madam Moderator. It was brought up as a referral by a member to, the item that's discussed by my fellow representative, it was brought up as a item of referral from one member to the moderator, and the moderator accepted it as an ad hoc committee. Thank you.
Representative Scott.
So just so I'm clear, you are officially accepting this as a referral?
I'm officially considering it. I have not officially accepted it. I have the prerogative to hold that. Hold on. I'm gonna look it up just to make sure I'm following the rules. Referral meta committee. Actually, I'm going to say, we're going to refer this to rules and procedures.
Challenge the decision of the chair.
Okay.
I second that.
What's your challenge? Can you speak on that, please?
I don't believe this is an appropriate referral item, and I think we can dispose of this tonight by challenging your decision.
Okay.
I don't think that this needs to be on our agenda or referred to any committee.
So, based on the attorney's opinion, Representative Scott, based on, we just lost him. Is there a second challenging my rule? Representative Cerf seconded? Okay, is that a 50% vote? Yes. Yes.
Just because I know from all the council meetings that, and I don't mean this in any rude way, that Representative Cerf sometimes can't hear, and she was in support of this property reuse committee, so she might not be sure that she's trying to dispose of it. So could you just please repeat for her what she's raising her hand to, please? Thank you.
She is seconding a motion to challenge the ruling of the chair.
To do what? To dispose?
Yeah, say the whole thing. She is challenging to
the motion. You referred the item to Rules Procedures Committee.
That was challenged by Representative Scott.
Correct.
It was seconded by Representative Cerf.
Right.
So,
does she know that what she did?
do you understand what?
Why I seconded? Can I explain myself?
Of course you can.
All right, I don't think this has anything to do with rules, because the last time the power of initiative was invoked, it did not go to the Rules Committee. So I see no reason why it should go to the Rules Committee this time. I think that the same procedure should be used as it was used the last time. It came up as new business. The moderator referred it to a committee that she formed, and it was treated as new business. There wasn't this whole wall of opposition, which we know that, you know, the special interest in this town who want to see developers do whatever they want in our town, build anything they want at any cost on our
This
wetlands,
doesn't have any,
anything.
hold on, we
Madam,
need to
we're
stay
talking
to the
about
topic.
We don't want
We're
that.
not on the topic. Representative Eben, would you like to speak to this?
Yes, point of information. Since
Hold
I
on,
was,
hold on.
since
Please.
I was moderator when this happened, I'd like to say that it was not, power of initiative was not used to form the Civilian Oversight Research Committee.
Correct.
That is a power held by the moderator to form committees. And I used that power, 6 point something, I'm sorry, I'm not looking at it right now, but I used that power, power of initiative was not used. Okay?
Okay.
Point of information.
Yes.
Is this motion to challenge where the referral goes, or is this motion to not have it considered at all?
Not have it considered at all.
Okay. Representative Cerf, are you trying to get this matter not considered at all by the body? No, I don't think that that's the intent.
But you can't speak for her. Right. And I think that's been done far too many times tonight. We're not speaking for other representatives. Representative Thomas.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Through you, I would respectfully request that Representative Cerf reconsider her second. To be clear, what Representative Scott
I'm
is
sorry.
asking-
I'm really offended by the fact that we have now 3 people who have now told a representative that she doesn't get to speak for herself.
Okay, so I just
can
want to
we-
clarify then. Let me clarify, please. Then I
There's
just
no
want to say that.
clarification needed. She has already spoken.
All right.
So can we not condescend somebody else?
Point of
in-
information, making a second doesn't.
I just wanted to clarify what was being discussed and how it was being discussed. All right, so I am in favor, and I thank the moderator for referring it to the Rules and Procedures Committee, and I would hope that the body votes to allow it to go there, because
Hold
it
on.
is a procedure, and it is legal for the RTM to propose such a thing to the town council. So I think it is legitimate, and I think it's a fair compromise. I did make a motion to suspend the rules tonight, that's true. I wanted to make sure that we had a chance to speak about it in some form or fashion. And I did send an email to the moderator many weeks ago, asking for it to be added to the agenda, which it was not, and of course that was not, because it had not gone through
Point
committee.
of order, please. Can we stick to
so
the topic of whether
I-
we're going to appeal the chair?
Thank you.
Sorry,
We're on one topic, and it is
Under
appealing
Rule
the chair.
8.7, I'd like to defend my point, please. This is all germane. And I'm just trying to clarify the fact that the Rules and Procedures Committee referral that the moderator proposed is a fair compromise, because it gives us a chance as a committee, which I'm a member of the Rules and Procedures Committee, it gives us a chance to workshop the document, take a look at it, and dig into it with some nuance. So I would urge this body to vote in favor of the moderator's referral to Rules and Procedure, because, you know, there is a lot to unpack here. It's a dense document, and it's a complicated situation.
Okay, thank you.
So I would and I would like to have it go through committee and have it come back to the RTM when it's been vetted by a committee.
Representative Gauthier.
Yeah, just a point of information, because this is new procedural territory for us all, challenging the decision of the moderator. I'd like to understand better, before we take the vote, what exactly are the grounds that this can be challenged? Can you overturn it? Can you have veto power? Can we appeal the challenge? Could we take a recess to kind of figure out what exactly all the actual rules are, instead of just kind of ad hoc making this up? Maybe the town manager, since he's pretty well versed on parliamentary procedures, can weigh in here.
We're going to take a 10-minute recess.
Thank you. They lost one seat on the council to ignore this exact issue. Enjoy the
Don't ever buy me gas station with my money. Oh, all right.
Representative Scott, how do you want to handle it if you're on Zoom? Okay, so if all the Republicans can follow Representative Chase, please?
I have to work 7 to 7 tomorrow and Friday.
Madam Moderator, we have a representative.
I can't do it. I can't do it.
Talking on the telephone, and it's difficult to
Are we ready? Okay. The meeting's back to order. It is 9:13 p.m. The motion on the floor is Representative Scott's motion to appeal the decision of the chair. It was seconded by Representative Cerf. Representative Cerf.
Okay, Madam Moderator, I would like to rescind my motion and further.
Your second?
My second. I would like to apologize to you for casting any dispersions on your judgment, because you've always been very fair, and I really appreciate your judgment, actually. I just thought it was going to the wrong committee, that's all.
Okay,
but
thank
your recommendation to send it to committee was, to me, excellent.
Okay, thank you. So
But I'll rescind the motion.
At this moment, in light of discussion, there is not a consensus in my mind of where this should be sent. So I'm rescinding my motion to send it to committee, and I'm going to hold judgment on where it will be sent, or if it will be sent, to next month. So, Representative Scott, would you like to rescind your motion since it is no longer on the floor?
If it's no longer on the floor, I'll rescind my motion.
Thank you.
Make a motion to adjourn.
There's a motion to adjourn, and there's a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion was made by Representative Sean Powers. It was seconded by Representative Chino.
Good night.
Good night, everybody. Good night,
Good night. Yeah.
Kumbaya, everybody.
I'm gonna go play at Niagara Falls.